Hello friends, welcome to TechnoGeek SFDC, and we are back with another coding scenario today. So today's scenario is that we need to write a code so that if any user is trying to delete an account record, okay, and if the user is not the owner of that particular account record, or let's say if the account is having uh, open cases associated with it, or let's say the cases which are not closed, okay, associated with it, then the user should not be able to delete that particular account. Okay, so we will see with this particular scenario how we can proceed ahead, because till now we have seen how you can update the records and all, but here we need to prevent the deletion of a record. Okay, so as you see from the statement, what they are asking is that whenever user is trying to delete, so first statement tells that you have to prevent user from deleting the account. So again, here a DML operation is coming into picture where user is trying to delete an account. Okay, this means what? That this means we have to now go ahead with the apex trigger. Next thing is which trigger or which event basically we need to look into. So since it is asking to check on deletion, so that's where we need to check for the delete event. Okay, so this is clear that now we have to use a trigger with a delete event, but which one, before or after? Now if you see that we have to prevent the record from deletions, this means we have to do that DML operation on the record which has initiated the trigger, right? And as we have discussed in our previous videos as well, that if you have to perform some action on the records which has initiated the DML, this means it will be a before context. Okay, and if you have to update some records or perform DML operation on the records which is associated with the record which has initiated the trigger, or let's say some other object record, then you go ahead with the after event. Here we will be using the before event because we have to check on the existing record which has initiated the event, okay, or the initiated the trigger. So at the end, we will be finalizing that we have to go ahead with the apex trigger with a delete event and before context. So we have to check on the before delete event. Okay. So now we'll see how we can write the code, or what type of code we need to write for it. So I'll first go and check if I have any existing delete trigger on my account. So let me see. Okay, so this is inactive. Okay, this isn't before update, so not this one. And then this is inactive. So what I'll do, I'll create a new trigger. I mean, as per best practices, you should always use one trigger per object. But since I want to show it to in a more clearer way, I'm creating another trigger. But the best practice is always use one trigger per object. Okay. So here, let's say I'll just write one more trigger, or I'll do one thing. Okay, I will go ahead with the best practice only. So we will be using the existing trigger. So I have, let's say, account trigger already on the account object which is running on after update. But we also, as per our coding scenario, what we have to do, we have to check for the before delete, right? So we will add here before delete. Okay. Now here again we will put something like, we will put a condition if trigger dot is before. Okay, and then we will write if trigger dot is delete. This means that whatever code I will write in between in this if condition, I mean in this if condition block, that will be executed for before delete event. Okay, now what the scenario is telling, that we need to first check, I mean we need to check whether the deleting user is a owner of the record or not. Okay, and also for the open cases. So first what we will do, we will first find out that if we have any open cases, okay, associated with the record which is getting deleted. Okay, so what we will do in that case, we will do a query on the record. Okay, So I'll use something like 4case CS. Okay, select ID comma account ID from case where account ID in trigger dot old map dot keyset. Okay, so one point to note here is, since it is a delete trigger, okay, so there will be no new version on the delete triggers. That is the before delete trigger. There will be no new version. It's just that you are deleting a existing record. So that's where you don't have trigger dot new or trigger dot new map variable context in your before delete. You will only have trigger dot old or trigger dot old map. Okay, that's why we are using trigger dot old map dot keyset. So it will give me the account IDs which are currently in the execution. Okay, now I'll also let me just see the stage name. Okay, so it is status. So I'll use status. Okay, not stage. So now what we are doing here, we are first querying on the case that we are querying on the case where account ID in trigger.oldmap.keyset, and I'll just remove. Okay, and we will add one more condition, and status not equals closed. So what it will do, it will get me all the case record, okay, whose account ID, that is the whose parent ID is the account ID which has initiated the before delete, and whose status is not equal to close. As per our condition as well, we need to check if it is having open cases. Okay, that's where it is telling we have put this condition that status not equal to closed. Okay, now what we will do, we will just put we will just create a list of ID ACC IDs, new list of ID. Okay, and we will just add the account IDs whichever we have received from this particular query. Okay, account IDs. This means what? That this list is having those accounts IDs which are, so that is ACC ID is a list which is having the IDs of account which are having at least one case associated with them which are not equal and which are not in closed status. Okay, this is what our query is doing, right? That in account ID is in trigger.oldmap.keyset and status is not equal to closed, and then we will just add those account IDs into one list. Okay, let's say list of IDs. Okay, we'll just put one more condition to avoid any duplicate entry into this. We can use set as well, or better, I'll go ahead with a set here instead of using the list. The reason is set doesn't have any duplicate values into it, so it will automatically take care that only one ID will be available, one account ID will be available in the list. Okay, now so this is where we got the list of account which are having at least one open cases. Now what we have to do, we have to now do the looping on those account records which are into the execution. Okay, that is which has triggered the before delete event. So how we will do, we will use account ACC, that is trigger dot old. As I said, we don't have trigger dot new in the before delete, that's why I'm using trigger dot old. Okay, now what we have to do here is, first we have to check whether the the account owner is not equal to the logged in user, right? So in that case, what we can do in a variable, we can we can use user info dot get user ID, and we can store it in a variable. Okay, or instead of that, in the direct if condition, we can put something like acc dot owner ID is not equal to user info dot get user ID. Okay, So this particular method gives the user ID of the logged in user. Okay, and we'll put and. Okay, so if user ID is not equal to or, so we need to put or condition, that we need to check either of the condition, that is if the logged in user is not equal to owner, or the account is having more at least one open case. Okay, so in that case we are checking that or ACC IDs. So this is a list contains ACC dot ID. Okay, so this is the list which is having list all those account IDs uh, which are having at least one open case. Okay, so now this condition will check and give us the return in the form of true or false, whether, so let's say if the logged in user is not equal to owner, then also it will become true, or if the ACC ID, this list contains the current executing account ID, then also it will return true. This means that it is having at least one open case. Now, till now we have seen how you can check the conditions and all, but how to prevent the deletion, right? In that case we will use a method called addError. So how to use addError? So addError method will be applied on that particular instance of the record. Okay, so in our case it will be like acc dot add error. Okay, and then whatever the custom error you want to give, that you are not allowed to delete the record. Okay, so in this way you can add an error on the current account, that it is having some error. So it is having some error, and that's where the further DML processing on this particular record has to be stopped. Okay, so that's why in the before delete, as soon as add error will be encountered for ACC, not for trigger.old, it will be for each and every record present in the trigger.old list. Okay, so we are executing on the list, right? So as soon as the first record came in, and if it is satisfying the criteria, and you have, and the code is adding something like dot add error for the first record, then the further DML operation on that record will be stopped. Okay, code execution will be there, but you cannot do the DML operation on that till the time your this execution is happening, that is till the time before delete is happening. Okay, so this is how we will implement add error here for those records, and then we can just save it. See, this whole thing you can also move it to the handler as part of some best practices, that handler should be having all your business logic, and the code and trigger should be the minimal, but this is just for explaining the concept here, how you can handle these types of scenarios as well. That's why I've kept the code into trigger itself. Okay, now let's try to test it. Okay, whether our logic is working properly or not. So I'll go to an account, and or I'll go to a case, and from case I will move towards account. So let's say I'll go to a case which is an open status, all open cases. Okay, and let's say I'll go to this case, and it is associated with okay, so it is associated with a demo check account. Okay, so now since account owner is myself, so one condition is overlooked because the logged in user and the account owner is same. But still, if we try to delete this, okay, if I try to delete this account, let's see how it behaves. See, so you have received an error, something like you're not allowed to delete the record. Why? Because it is having one case associated with it, which is in open status. Okay, now let me see how many cases it is having. So I'm just checking how many cases I have associated with this particular account. Okay. So I'm having only one ID, comma, state. Okay, sorry, it was status. So status is new here. I'll change it to, let's say, closed. Okay, and I'll save it. Okay, now if I try to delete this account, it should allow me to delete the account. Okay, the reason is now it doesn't have any open cases associated with this particular uh, account. Yeah. So see, this is a different error because you attempt to delete because it is having associate, but this is not the custom error which we have created. Okay, and that is the reason. So what is the reason for that? Because now, as you see, we had this list, and in this list we don't have any account because the account which has initiated this particular flow or which has initiated this particular code block of before delete doesn't have any open case into it. Okay, that's why our custom error didn't come. Okay, now let's say if we have to let's say if I have to close the account or if I have to delete, then we will take, so that scenario will take it in our next series where how you can first delete the associated contact and then delete the account. But in this scenario, as as the statement suggests, that we have to prevent the user from deleting if it is having open cases or user is not equal to owner. So this is how we set it, like if it is having open case, then you can show your own custom error. Okay. Similarly, if I go to any account, let's say if any account which is not having case associated with it, I'll just check if it is not having any case. Okay, so it is not having any case associated with it. And if I try to delete this, it will allow me. The reason is the owner is same as myself. Okay. If I change the owner, it will not allow me. But let me see. Okay, so since this is a developer also, I'm having only one license for this. Okay, so let's try to delete and see. Right? See, this account got deleted. The reason is has it has satisfied both the criterias. That is, the owner ID was same as the logged in user ID and it is not having any open case associated with it. Okay, and that's why you didn't see this particular error. So this is how you can prevent any record deletion based on your business logic, or let's say if any interviewer is asking you how you will prevent the deletion based on, let's say, if open cases are there or if open opportunities are there, then the main key concept you have to keep in mind is this addError, because addError is something which will prevent the execution of DML after this statement. So if I have to prevent the deletion, it will stop the deletion of the record there itself where you are using the addError. Okay, so this is the concept or this is the point which you have to keep in mind when someone is asking to prevent the deletion or prevent the updation or prevent insert. Okay, if someone is asking of prevent or stopping the DML operation or preventing the DML operation on record, then you can directly go ahead with the addError. Okay, so I hope you are clear with how we can approach these types of coding scenarios in future, or let's say in the business requirement, as well as if any interviewer is asking in the interview process, so you can showcase, you can tell them that this is the way you can approach. Okay, and definitely this you will get cleared in your interview. Okay, so with this we will wrap up today's video. We will come up with a more scenarios in next video, like how you can delete the existing records before deletion of the parent record, how to delete the child record. So all those scenarios we will cover in our future videos. So if you like this video, please share it, please subscribe to the channel, and also please spread across your friends whoever is working on the Salesforce or whoever wants to learn the Salesforce and these types who are preparing for the interviews for the Salesforce developer, these videos will help them. Okay, so with this we will wrap up today's video. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.